Welcome to Corvette Today, the podcast that talks about everything Corvette, with your host Steve Garrett, MC and DJ at one of the largest Corvette weekends in the country, Corvette Fun Fest, president of the Corvette Club of Kansas City, Missouri, and radio disc jockey at the #1 radio station in Kansas City for over 40 years. Here's Steve Garrett.
Thanks for listening to Corvette Today, the podcast that talks about everything Corvette. Brought to you by Wheelcraft. Want to dress up your Corvette with bright chrome or black chrome wheels? Visit wheelcraft.com to learn about their advanced PVD chrome finishing. They can refinish your wheels or offer a wheel exchange for most models, and it comes with a 5-year warranty. Visit wheelcraft.com today or call 833-840-5334. I'm your host, Steve Garrett. I appreciate you tuning in. You can listen to Corvette Today on all podcast platforms. You can also listen on your smart device. Just say, Alexa or Hey Google, play the podcast called Corvette Today, and you're connected. Also, visit the Corvette Today website. It's CorvetteTodayPodcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you visit the Corvette Today merchandise store. You can also sign up for Corvette Today emails, notifications, and updates at corvettetoday.ck.page. And don't forget, join the Corvette Today Facebook group. We have over 3,600 members, and I'd love to have you as a member as well. And don't forget about the YouTube channel now for Corvette Today. See all your favorite Corvette Today podcasts now on YouTube. First, I'd like to thank our flagship sponsors of Corvette Today, AEROLARRI Wheels, a true forged wheel with over 20 unique design styles to choose from for your C8 and wide-body versions of the C7, C6, and C5 Corvette. It's an awesome value starting at only $23.88 for a set of 4 fully forged wheels. And now use the new promo code CT111, that's CT111, and get $100 off your purchase. Visit AEROLARRI.com, that's AEROLARRI.com, with the new promo code CT111 for your $100 discount. Also, MidEngineCorvetteForum.com, the forum that focuses on the new mid-engine C8 Corvette. Meet a lot of fellow Corvette enthusiasts like yourself at MidEngineCorvetteForum.com. Also, a shout out to CanadianCorvetteForum.com, welcoming Corvette owners from around the world. Michelin is the world's leading tire manufacturer, and in the past, Michelin has worked with Corvette on the 2009 ZR1 and the 2011 Z06. But in 2013, Michelin was named as the exclusive original equipment tire for Corvette, starting with the C7. Now, if you've ever been to the National Corvette Museum's Michelin Bash and attended the Michelin seminars, you're going to know my 2 guests on today's show. I'm so excited to have on Corvette Today, Lee Willard, the engineer for Michelin, and Dr. Jeff Anderson, the product development engineer for Michelin. We're going to be talking about some tires today on Corvette Today. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. So great to be here on Corvette Today. It's exciting.
Yes, I couldn't be more pumped than to sit here and do this.
Well, guys, first off, let's do an introduction for both you, Lee, and you too, Dr. Jeff. Tell me about your upbringing, your family, your education, and how you got to Michelin. Lee, why don't you start off?
Oh, that's make me go way back in time because I'm 37 years with Michelin now. I started in 1986, but I'm a Carolina boy. I was born and mostly raised in North Carolina, and I went to NC State, studied mechanical engineering. I got a bachelor's and master's degree in mechanical engineering, specializing in energy and heat transfer thermodynamics. After I finished my master's, I started interviewing and interviewed with Michelin and just was so impressed with the technology and the goals that were being applied for modeling and computer simulation of tires that I said, hey, this is the place for me. And I took the job at Michelin.
And 37 years later, here you are still, right?
Still here, just pushing 60 this year. So it's been a wonderful ride.
That's fantastic. Dr. Jeff, give us a background on you and how you got to Michelin as well.
Yeah, so I grew up just north of New Orleans in Mandeville, Louisiana. I've always been a car guy, specifically a Corvette guy. My uncle was always into Camaros, and he had 269s. And when we talked about those cars, he goes, yeah, I always wanted a Corvette, though. That set me on the path. And when I was 17, I saved up every summer working at a concession stand and bought a 94 Corvette, which I drove my senior year in high school. And I loved every bit of that car. So I've always been around that and wanting to push my career that way. I ended up going to Louisiana Tech for undergraduate studies, and I got a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. When it came time to figure out what I wanted to do, I ended up out at Clemson in South Carolina to further and get a master's degree. I met my wife while I was at Clemson, settled down, and had a wonderful job offer at Michelin, and decided to go to work there. As soon as I found out we were working on Corvette, I got to meet Lee, and man, it has been a fun ride ever since. Couldn't be happier and learning from the best.
That's fantastic, guys. I guess we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Michelin and the company's history. Give us a little bit of background on how Michelin got to be where it is today.
Michelin was founded in 1889 by the Michelin brothers. The company started by making improvement in bicycle tires. Back in the 1800s, bicycles were the top-notch performance vehicle out there besides maybe a fast horse. Bicycle tires were glued onto rims, and Michelin brothers came up with a new design where you could attach a tire and demount a tire without having to use glue and waiting for the glue to dry. That was the advent of Michelin. It started in 1889. If you go across the history of the company, one of the most notable innovations in Michelin's history is the invention of the radial tire. And that was 1946, right after World War II. And then you saw a gradual taking over the market or conquering the market, moving from bias tires to radial tires through the 60s and 70s. And Michelin moved headquarters in North America in the late 70s and opened up our research center here in Greenville, South Carolina.
Lee, that's really cool. Talk a little bit more about the more recent history for Michelin then.
Recent history for Michelin, I think what I can give you is maybe a little bit of insight into Michelin in North America. Like I said, we had our research center started here in the 70s, and we were mainly concentrated on truck tires, all-season tires, normal, typical mass production, commuting vehicles type cars, sedans, minivans. That was all work in the 70s and 80s, but later on in the 80s and moving into the 90s, we started to work on our first ultra-high performance tires. Those were sports car tires. Before that, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, a lot of the sport car tires were all designed and manufactured in Europe. And they had very much a European focus. So car companies like Porsche, Ferrari, BMW Motorsports, the sports car knowledge at Michelin and design focus was mainly on European cars. That was one of the interesting changes in Michelin in our history for North America that eventually led up to the Corvette, was that we started to do high-performance cars right here in North America.
And that was something that I was going to ask you. What significant advances were made at Michelin that led you to working with Corvette?
The biggest advances that came about at Michelin that helped us to work with Corvette, first of all, is just our philosophy of how we enter into motorsports to learn about the conditions and all the different type of conditions that a tire can be subjected to when used in a very performant way. So, for example, hard braking, hard acceleration, hard cornering, high temperatures, endurance, making sure the tires don't fall apart, make sure they don't get too hot and lose grip and control. One of the big things that helps us to work with Corvette being a sports car tire, I've heard people say that every Corvette's a race car. The fact that we put so much investment in people and technology into motorsports allowed us to learn a lot of things that would eventually be brought to the table for when we started to design tires for Corvette and to compete with other tire manufacturers to even be considered to make tires for Corvette. That was one big area. Another big area was the C3M process. The C3M process is a highly automated, almost 100% automated, very flexible, high technology manufacturing process. What that process brings to us in developing tires for Corvette is flexibility to be innovative. It was really key and important for us to win the contracts with Corvette, to be able to out-innovate everyone else on the playing field. We needed to have new tires with new innovations, which would meet higher levels of performance.
And talk about some of those recent innovations, Lee and Jeff, that really set Michelin apart.
A big innovation is taking the same type of rubbers that are designed for the racetrack and for competition and being able to modify the rubber and the structure of the tire to be applicable to a street tire. Those innovations not only are rubber compounding, but they're also in the composite of the tire, so the belt packages, the sidewalls. And when you talk about recent innovations, just talk about run flat. All Corvettes have run-flat tires. Corvette was one of the first manufacturers to embrace run-flat tires on a wide scale with the 1994 Corvette C4. Is that right, Jeff? Was it 94? Did your C4 have run-flats on it?
No, I think it was 95. Mine had a spare tire.
Okay, so 95. So, yeah, that is the fact that Corvette decided to remove that spare tire and incorporating a run flat capability within the tires that are already on four corners of the car is an innovation that we took and ran with. We said, how can we not only provide run flat to the car, but also be able to afford other kinds of performances like better cornering, better braking, higher grip? That's a great example of a recent innovation that started in the mid-90s. I know Corvette leads in that innovation.
Yeah, it was really a big deal when we had run flat tires because it scared a lot of people not having a spare tire in the car. So it was really cool when Michelin came out with those run flats, that's for sure.
Yeah, it sure was. And the early run flats on Corvettes were very stiff. They compromised ride. What we've done at Michelin is worked around all those compromises to improve all the normal performances of those tires, but also to emphasize and highlight the great handling performances you can get with those kinds of structures.
That sounds good. Well, guys, let's take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk more specifically about the marriage between Michelin and Corvette. We've got Lee Willard, engineer for Michelin, and Dr. Jeff Anderson, the product development engineer for Michelin, here on Corvette Today.
The Radiator Grill Store offers protection for your C8's front radiators and side intakes. They also carry front strut tower covers to prevent rusting and pooling water, all with do-it-yourself installation. Get 10% off your total purchase with promo code CT10. See the full line of products at radiatorgrillstore.com.
When you want to buy a Corvette, or any Chevrolet for that matter, get yours from Hendrick Chevrolet Shawnee Mission, located in Kansas City. Hendrick Chevrolet is the largest Corvette dealership and showroom in the Midwest. With a knowledgeable sales staff and Corvette sales specialists on hand, they'll help you build the Corvette of your dreams, and they ship nationwide. With Corvette certified master mechanics on site and a huge parts department with over 24,000 parts and $2 million in inventory, Hendrick Chevrolet is well equipped to take care of your every need. From sales to service to collision repair, Hendrick Chevrolet has you covered. Visit ChevyUSA.com or call 913-384-1550.
We all know that wheels make the car. Wheelcraft will help you take your Corvette to new levels. Wheelcraft offers the world's best PVD chrome finish available on the market. Available in bright chrome and black chrome. Wheelcraft nails it in both appearance and durability. And it comes with a 5-year warranty against brake dust burns, pitting, peeling, and color delamination. Wheelcraft is also ISO certified. Whether you're having your wheels refinished or an exchange transaction, there is no core fee, no deposit, and you don't pay for the finished wheels until they are installed on your car. Wheelcraft insists on complete satisfaction before you pay. Hear from one of our customers.
I picked up a brochure at the National Corvette Museum when we took delivery of our new C8. I called Wheelcraft, and in 15 minutes, I ordered the new bright ice chrome wheels. Wheelcraft's follow-up and follow-through is superb. The wheels arrived on Sunday, installed on Monday, and cores were returned same day. The wheels are the highest quality I've ever seen, and they look awesome. Great prices, great customer service from initial contact to installation.
Thanks, Dennis from Nashville. In many cases, Wheelcraft offers finished wheels on exchange or will apply this new finish to your wheels. Either way, Wheelcraft treats your wheels as their own. Visit our website at wheelcraft.com or call us at 833-840-5334. Arrive in style with Wheelcraft.
Mid-American Motorworks has been the industry leader and aftermarket supplier and manufacturer of Corvette replacement parts and accessories since 1974. We have what you need for all years and generations of Corvette. Whether you need a door panel or seat cover for your C1 Corvette, or the latest shirt, jacket, hat, or lifestyle accessory to complement your new C8, you can get it at Mid-American Motorworks. So if you're restoring, repairing, replacing, or simply researching your Corvette, Mid-American Motorworks is the place to go. Visit our website at mamotorworks.com and shop Corvettes by generation or specific year. Or call us Monday through Saturday, toll-free at 800-500-1500 and talk to one of our Corvette experts to help you get the right part or accessory. Pursue your passion with Mid-America Motorworks.
VetteFinders.com is the Internet's original Corvette classified ads website, with classified ads starting at just $25, and every ad runs until your Corvette is sold. If you're in the market for a Corvette, VetteFinders.com has over 500 Corvettes for sale from all around the USA and Canada, and covering all 8 generations. Visit VetteFinders.com, the Internet's destination for buying and selling Corvettes. That's VETTE Finders.com.
This is the Corvette Today podcast with Steve Garrett.
Hey, thanks for listening and watching Corvette Today, brought to you by Wheelcraft. Want to dress up your Corvette with bright chrome or black chrome wheels? Visit wheelcraft.com to learn about their advanced PVD chrome finishing. They can refinish your wheels or offer a wheel exchange for most models, and it comes with a 5-year warranty. Visit wheelcraft.com today or call them at 833-840-5334. I'm your host, Steve Garrett. With me today is Lee Willard and Dr. Jeff Anderson from Michelin. In this second segment of Corvette Today, we're going to talk about how Michelin started working with Corvette. Guys, give me the backstory on that, because that has to be a fantastic story.
Yes, that is a fantastic story. And I'll admit, I'm selfish. I always wanted to work on Corvette tires. So whenever we saw the chance, we never had a chance to design a tire that could go on a Corvette, even before we had a commercial relationship with Corvette to develop the tires, I would always push my boss, hey, let me work on that. I got some ideas for that. This first came about when Corvette was starting to think about having run flat tires in the early 90s. We didn't actually build tires for the mid-90s Corvettes, which were run flat. Another tire company did. But we were working on that as a research project. And me, being a young guy, a lot of good computer skills, just like Dr. Jeff has right now, I was working on that research project. And we built some tires internally at Michelin to try out to see how good we could do it at this new idea of run flat. So after those preliminary internal investigation, very much R&D, skunk work projects, we built some tires for a Corvette that were run flat that worked very well. In the middle 90s, Michelin built a C3M factory in North America, in the United States, here in Greenville, South Carolina, and I was transferred to that group. We thought of the idea like, hey, let's make us some all-season tires for the Corvette C5s and see how that goes in the marketplace. So we designed the first all-season tires, not for original equipment, but for replacement market, and built them in our new C3M factory in Greenville, South Carolina. We didn't do any advertising, didn't really tell anybody, but through internet or Corvette forums or just word of mouth at Corvette clubs, people said, hey, have you seen these new Michelin run flat tires? They're all season and run flat, and they fit your Corvette. That market started to grow like crazy because people were taking our tires and comparing them to the original equipment tires. I said, hey, this gives us everything we want and more. Let's get these tires. So that was a replacement market. We got our foot in the door in the replacement market or aftermarket with Corvette with that little project. Later on, because of our work in racing at Le Mans and American Le Mans, Corvette Racing found out that they could go 2 or 3 seconds a lap faster. Jeff, was that what it was at Le Mans?
It was significant. It was enough they couldn't ignore it anymore.
Yeah, they could not ignore the time differential at Le Mans in 2003. And Corvette switched to Michelin racing tires in 2004, and they won Le Mans that year. If I remember properly, Corvette came in second and third against a Ferrari that had Michelin tires the year before. Corvette switched off our competitors' tires to Michelin tires, and they handily won the 2004 Le Mans. So that was another big factor in helping us become original equipment on Corvette. The last thing that happened is because of the racing experience, General Motors invited us to have a shootout to compete for the C6 ZR1, and that was about 2007, 2008. A shootout is a do-or-die situation. You got to bring your best. So it's like an innovation war. So the fact that I'd been working in our most innovative tire factory, along with a lot of other really good guys at Michelin, we put our heads together and came up with some really great ideas for a shootout tire that got us on the C6 ZR1 for model year 2009. And that was the opening of all the rest.
And the rest is history, right, guys?
The rest is history. We did go through another competitive shootout for C7 fitments, and we won that, both for the narrow body and the wide body. And now you see us on the C8, and Jeff and I are both still innovating as fast as we can with all our capabilities.
And proud to hold 100% OE fitment on the Corvette currently.
Absolutely. And you know, guys, you're right. The run flat all-season tires was a huge innovation. I remember that and switched my Corvette to that as well. And Dr. Jeff, you were kind of doing double duty because you were working on C7 and C8, plus you were earning your PhD. Isn't that right?
I did. So I got to Michelin in 2010, and Lee had done so much of this awesome stuff. My path was a little different, and there was an opportunity for me to go back to school and earn a PhD. So Michelin allowed me to do that and gave me time and resources to work on that. But I still held some of my Corvette responsibilities. It was amazing to get to work on C7 and C8 while doing a PhD, and my studies were very tied into it. I ended up studying lap time simulation and driver modeling as my dissertation topic. So it all segued in really well. While doing the PhD, I remember telling my professor, I'm going to need to take 5 weeks out of the country to go work the 24 hours of Le Mans and then go to the Nürburgring right after. So that was a highlight of running simulations for my PhD over in France and Germany.
That's incredible. Did you get any sleep during that time at all?
No time to sleep.
For about 10 minutes during Le Mans. We were sitting side by side with both our computers and just said, I got to take a nap. And he put his head down for 10 minutes. What was that, the 2017 Le Mans?
Yep.
Do you remember?
Yeah, it was 2017. The only picture I got is me, my head down on the desk for the 10 minutes I slept that night.
That's funny. And we're going to talk more specifically about Le Mans in this third segment. Guys, talk about some of the significant developments of run flat tires. How did they come to being?
One of the great innovations of our run flat tires, I still don't know if competitors do anything like this. And one of the reasons is because it's patented, is asymmetry in the sidewall stiffnesses of our tire design. The run flat part is on the interior sidewall. That also plays a great role in the handling of the vehicle because it makes the tire work a lot better for transferring cornering forces and braking and acceleration torques. We have the outside tires soft and supple. That allows the tire to have a nicer ride as well as a bigger contact patch to get really great grip. That is one of the key technological features of the run flat tires, the fact that you can do so much with the stiffnesses inside to outside of the tire. And it just opens up a huge tuning box for making the tire match to the specific characteristics of a vehicle as well when you adjust the stiffnesses inside to outside on the sidewall.
Guys, I also know that one of the huge tire lines for Michelin is the Pilot Sport tire. Talk about the development of the Pilot Sport and the significance it plays with Corvette.
Pilot Sport tire line is a pretty old tire line that goes back into the 90s, and it really represents what I talked about a little bit earlier, the philosophy of bringing sport or competition into a summer tire line. Before Pilot Sport, we had summer performance tires. But when we went to Pilot Sport, we really brought in a lot of know-how, savoir-faire, since we are a French company, from the racing knowledge in Formula One, as well as in endurance racing, into the street tires. A specific example of that, and some stuff that Jeff has worked really closely on as well, is the modeling of the contact patch. Taking all the dynamics of the way a tire corners and brakes and accelerates and what it does to the contact patch shape, we are able to adapt the models that were developed in Michelin Formula One to work on street tires. And Jeff, you're probably one of the most recent experts in that in some of your modeling lately, right, Jeff?
I'd say that tire modeling is a tough problem, and it's definitely come a long way in a very short time here recently. It's a composite structure, and everybody thinks of airplane wings and fiberglass and stuff like that, but tires don't get as much love. And then you start thinking about it, it's a huge composite of rubber. You've got steel, in our case, Kevlar cords and everything else. It's a big deflection problem. So mathematically, it's an interesting problem to get to work on. And there's been a lot of advances recently giving us really good predictions through finite element simulation that we use heavily on Corvette and throughout the Michelin Pilot Sport line.
When Jeff mentions the modeling part, the first thing the guys told me when I left college graduate school at NC State to come to work here was, you're going to go work on nonlinear thermal sensitive composites. Nothing is simple. I said, you're absolutely right. Yeah. There's nothing simple there. Nonlinear, viscoelastic, temperature sensitive, all those things come into play.
I remember my first introduction was Dr. Ryan, and he goes, this is probably the most complicated composites problem there are, and it's been around for 100 years. So I always like that.
That's amazing. Guys, also talk about the growth of the Pilot Sport, because we have the All-Season Plus, we had the All-Season 3, the 3 Plus, and that started in the 6th generation of Corvette and went through 7th generation, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. Now with actually the 8th generation Corvette, We actually have a Pilot Sport all-season ZP tire that comes original equipment on the Stingray, the standard Stingray. So that comes with an all-season tire from that same very long line of expertise that we developed here in North America. That's something that we put on our trophy. We're the world experts of all-season tires. The performance of an all-season tire in the 8th generation has become so great, even in dry conditions, even on a handling racetrack, that Corvette has decided to allow us to have all-season tire as original equipment. So you get it brand new right from the dealership, and you don't have to buy those and fit them aftermarket like it was for a lot of the earlier generations. Now, on the earlier generations, all Corvettes had summer tires only, and Michelin, as a separate project, as our aftermarket, we offered the all-season versions. And we did work with General Motors and Corvette with those, that we show those tires to the really great engineers that we worked with up in Milford all along the way. But that all-season tire on the C8 Stingray that came original equipment is pretty special. It's got pretty good performance in snow and great performance in wet. It's amazing on the track. I have a lot of people that have all-season tires. They come to me all the time and say, hey, I drive these on the track. They're fine. They're great.
That's fantastic. You know, guys, retired Corvette test driver Jim Merrow is a big friend of the Corvette Today podcast. I bet you've got some great stories about Jim and the C6 ZR1.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about Jim and things that we did with Jim. He was my partner in innovation, I'd say, or partner in crime for innovation, because we broke a lot of the rules that big engineering companies have just for the spirit of innovating and trying to do better. Every time we had a new tire project with Jim, coming from the C6 ZR1 to the C6, the Z06 that had PS cups, the original PS cups on. And every time when I'd show up in Milford at the test track, he'd look at me and say, okay, 2 seconds, Willard. Jim was demanding. He always wanted 2 seconds faster, right, Jeff?
That's right. He always wanted those 2 seconds.
And so every project, we always made improvements, and that was very much a product of our spirit for innovation and passion, the passion that Jim had. When you talk about passion and some of the things that Jim did, if you go back to the C6 ZR1, what was that suggested retail price? About $90,000, Jeff? Do you remember?
I think that one was in the 6 digits.
Yes, I think that was the first Corvette over $100,000.
Jim drove that thing around the Nürburgring, the C6 ZR1, a second faster than the Porsche Carrera GT. And the Porsche Carrera GT, I think, must have been a $400,000, maybe $500,000 car. So that was a really great thing that we got to see Jim do, is to take the C6 ZR1 with our Michelin Pilot Sport 2 ZPs and beat the Carrera GT by a second. That was really cool.
That's amazing.
That was only one of the many, many, many Nürburgring trips that Jeff and I have made over there. Not to mention track trips to all kinds of racetracks all around the United States, from California to Road Atlanta to VIR. We did a lot of great work with Jim.
Jim is the man. I spent a lot of time in Germany with him on C7. Real impressed how much of the details he was in, how much time he spent studying data to get faster. And we did a lot of work with setup and all sorts of things to make sure he got the most out of the tires in the car. It was a lot of fun.
That's a great story. Jim is, like I said, a great friend of the show. He's going to love to hear this podcast, that's for sure. Guys, we talked a little bit about this earlier in the segment, but talk about some of the significant developments that happened during the C7 generation.
C7 generation. First of all, the big significant development was having Dr. Jeff come in on the team. He's been super doing all of the real serious engineering work where you have to solve the equations and write the models. He also brought a fresh mind into innovation with great ideas. I always put that up there as one of my favorite advances in the C7 generation. I'm glad to still be working with him on C8. And if you go after that, one of the big deals for the C7 generation was the advent of using multiple tread compounds in the tire. Instead of just using one tread compound in the tire, I think the C6 ZR1 had one tread compound. The C6 ZR1 with PS cups had 2 compounds. Now you get into the C7 generation, we're using 2 and 3 compounds. That really helped us get a leg up into another realm of performance. And that idea, just to touch on another point in our discussion, it came from motorsports. Not that we have multi-compound tires all over the place in motorsports, but every weekend when Jeff and I would go to the track and work at a race, we would come in and tell all the fans at the Corvette crowds, hey, we got 3 tires for this weekend. We got a hard compound, a medium compound, and a soft compound. And then we also have a cold wet and a drying wet. And what we were doing there is taking all those different qualities of motorsports tires and seeing if we could incorporate those different types of rubber compounds and their characteristics into one tire that was built for the street and the track. We just used the flexibility of our process, C3M, so we could put the tread rubber exactly where we wanted to have the tread rubber. The outside might take a different kind of rubber compared to the inside, as well as different arrangements according to what kind of tread pattern might be on the car. So the C7, we started using a lot more of this multi-tread compound strategy where the tread compound was placed specifically in the tread pattern as well as positioned side to side or across the tire to get the great performance. So you put the rubber where you need it. The rubber that works best here, that's where you'd put it.
That's cool. And I guess we would be remiss if we didn't discuss the current generation of Corvette, the C8. Let's talk about some of the technology advances you guys have seen for this mid-engine supercar.
Yeah, C8, it definitely is pushing the envelope as far as what we're able to leverage from modeling and simulation, really taking all these great ideas that Lee's always had in driving these performances so far and trying to mathematically reproduce them so we can really hone in on the best solution for the car. And heavily working with our partners at General Motors to do driver-in-the-loop type simulations where we have a test driver on a platform driving the tires that we're trying to build later, but doing this all virtually so we can iterate very fast and get to a much better solution with that.
For the C8, we went a step farther. Now we're running 3 compounds in the tire, and have even looked at more compounds in the tire. We also have a couple other really cool innovations, C8 Z06, which is brand new for this summer. But we have a belt package. The belt package is actually profiled under the tread ribs, so it gives more stiffness to the tread pattern, and you get even better handling than with normal traditional belts, which are usually flat. These are belts that work in the composite of the tire to give even better handling. And Jeff was big into that. Do you have any words of wisdom on the profile belts, Jeff?
That was always an interesting technology to me because I always made it analogous to a piece of sheet metal. Those belts in a tire, it's not very stiff, but when you corrugate them and you put some bends in it, that sheet metal becomes super stiff. And that's exactly what we're able to do with that profiled belt package, is make it extremely stiff and responsive so that all those steering inputs get directly translated back to the driver. And I think really upped our level of steering precision and handling on this car.
That works really well with the mid-engine concept of having the driver right in the middle of the car, so the car rotates around him. So you have extremely responsive tires on all 4 corners and a driver that's being very precise in his driving inputs. They all work together perfect. After the profile belts, we also had aramid carcass. Well, that's a Kevlar carcass, so that's really high technology textile material that's used in military aerospace applications. It's light and strong as steel, and this is the first example I can think of any sports car tire using Kevlar as the commercial name or aramid carcass. So that's super strong, very enduring and consistent. They just all work together to make a great handling, precise tire, and people will soon be able to see this and feel it for themselves when they get their Z06s.
And I'm glad you mentioned the Z06 because John Elegant from midenginecorvetteforum.com found out that you guys were going to be on the show, and he wanted to know, as the new C8 Z06s and Z07s come in with the Cup 2Rs, and especially with National Corvette Museum deliveries, driving home those long distances, sometimes is kind of tough. Will you guys have available the Pilot Sport 4s to immediately switch out when a customer gets a Z06 delivered?
Yes, Steve. Those tires, they're in production right now, so we have those tires in our warehouse. There are some available for people that want to do that. You'd have to order them through your normal commercial online or through a tire dealer, and they could arrange to maybe have tires put on your car in Bowling Green right after you pick them up and drive them home. The contract with General Motors is we don't sell any tires in the replacement market until the cars are for sale. So I think that we are right on the cusp of cars being for sale at dealers. But when those first cars are available for sale and pickup, then our tires will be released in the marketplace for aftermarket as well. So that could be arranged. You could buy tires from a dealer or bring them to Bowling Green and have them fitted to your car and drive back to California or Florida or wherever you come from.
That sounds good. Well, John will be very happy about that, guys. Guys, let's take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about Michelin at Le Mans. We've got Lee Willard and Dr. Jeff Anderson from Michelin here on Corvette Today.
Are you ready for a better insurance policy without the Corvette tax? With agreed value protection, the value of your collector vehicle will never change. Plus, you'll save money. Get a quick quote at ncminsurance.com.
Hey, honey, are you awake?
I am now.
I can't sleep. Since turning 50, I keep dreaming of a red door and a blue door, somehow knowing there are only choices for retirement.
Okay.
Through the red door, we outlive our money. We have to rely on our kids. We're stuck on a fixed income. It's terrifying.
Yeah, that would suck.
But through the blue door, our money outlives us. We retire on our terms. Our kids stay our kids, not our caretakers. We make work optional.
Yes, that's much better. That's what I want too. But what do we do?
We call True Wealth & Company at 913-653-8783. They specialize in helping successful people make work optional. They're our fiduciary Blue Door personal wealth managers.
Hey, where are you going? It's 3 a.m.
I can't sleep. I'm going to check out True Wealth & Company online at retirewithtrue.com. That Blue Door is going to be our retirement.
913-653-8783. Visit us online at retirewithtrue.com. Investment advice offered through True Wealth & Company, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Kansas.
American Hydrocarbon is your one-stop shop for custom interior, exterior, and engine bay items for your C4 through C8 Corvette. We can help you create a custom look for your Corvette with carbon fiber or 10 different color patterns and styles. Whether it's a custom-made engine cover for your new C8 mid-engine Corvette or custom-made C4 interior upgrades, American Hydrocarbon can help you transform your Corvette into a best-in-class show car. And now we're proud to announce that we can produce and distribute officially licensed GM products for the C8 Corvette. That includes the front splitter, side skirts, engine appearance panels, and engine fluid caps. Plus, we now also carry the C8 Speedline side skirts along with the engine appearance package and high wing. Our products have been featured in Vette and Corvette magazines. Give us a call, 813-476-5638. Visit our updated website at AmericanHydrocarbon.com or email us at pat@AmericanHydrocarbon.com. Let us help you make your Corvette the car you've always wanted it to be. American Hydrocarbon.
Stretch the life of your Corvette's paint with Nova Stretch, the performance protective cover. From bugs to rock chips, Nova Stretch covers protect your C5 through C8 Corvette, utilizing stretch fabric technology and an innovative fastening system for quick installation and easy removal and storage. Made in the USA for a tailored fit, the patented design and breathable mesh protects your Corvette without rubbing or chafing the paint like traditional covers. And unlike clear film or old-time car bras, Nova Stretch provides full front-end coverage including the grille, keeping radiators and heat exchangers clean and debris-free. Visit novastretch.com and use the code CORVETTETODAY15 to get 15% off your order. Protect your Corvette with Nova Stretch.
And now, back to Corvette Today with your host and my husband, Steve Garrett.
Hey, thanks for listening and watching Corvette Today, the podcast that talks about everything Corvette. Brought to you by Wheelcraft. Want to dress up your Corvette with bright chrome or black chrome wheels? Visit wheelcraft.com. Learn about their advanced PVD chrome finishing. They can refinish your wheels or offer a wheel exchange for most models, and it comes with a 5-year warranty. Visit wheelcraft.com today or call them at 833-840-5334. I'm your host, Steve Garrett. With me today is Lee Willard and Dr. Jeff Anderson from Michelin. In this third and final segment, we're going to talk more about Le Mans. Guys, you got to have some great Le Mans stories. Talk about that experience out in France.
Yes, we have some great stories. I tell you what, anybody that works as a tire person during Le Mans, we don't refer to it as the 24 hours of Le Mans. We refer to it as the somewhere between 38 and 40 hours of Le Mans because it starts early in the morning with a ride on a tram from downtown the city out to the racetrack. The sun's just coming up. It's about 6 a.m. and you prep, you get ready for warm up, and then you spend usually until either 3 p.m. in the afternoon on Saturday or 4 p.m. in the afternoon on Saturday. And then the race starts. I always wonder why in the world did they do that, start the race so late, because you've already spent a good working day at the track getting ready, doing whatever you need to do, worrying about things, checking it twice, checking it 3 times. And then you start a 24-hour race that doesn't end until 4 o'clock on Sunday. And then you have to clean up and get all your reports issued and put together before you can rest. The personal endurance is pretty tough as well for that race. I don't know. Jeff, you've done Le Mans twice now?
Yeah, so I've done it in 2017 with you, and then by myself last year in 2021 when we got second.
Yeah, for some reason, our motorsports group decided that we're going to just put Jeff out there all by himself. But no, that's typically our model for running the race. You have one motorsports engineer with a 2-car team. And I tell you, when you have 2 guys working on it, it makes it a lot easier. But one person for that job is really tough. At the end of the race, you say, why in the world did I ever do this? But then you wake up the next morning and you can't wait for the next year. So you always want to go back.
I can imagine.
I did Le Mans, I think, with Corvette 12 times from 2008 to 2019. And I did it 20 years in a row. So I have the one distinction about being the only American race engineer that has done Le Mans 20 years in a row. Jeff, I think the wins at Le Mans when I worked with Corvette were 2009, 2011, 2015. Those were great. One of the most exciting races was 2017 when I was working with Jeff at Le Mans, and Jeff was doing the number 3 car. Jeff, why don't you tell them the experience of the last couple laps of that race?
Le Mans for me is the pinnacle of everything. It's amazing to get to be a part of because I can remember watching Le Mans with the C6R days back at home on Speed Network. So it was amazing to get to work on this. Specifically, that 2017 year was incredible to me. The last couple laps, the battle we had with Aston Martin was so fierce. There's passing back and forth on the last lap. And I just remember Jordan Taylor, what a stand-up guy, an amazing driver, getting that car across the finish line. It was something to watch. All of the battle wounds on it, going across the finish line, the front tires weren't spinning. It was such a highlight for me to get to see that, and how hard Corvette fought for that 3rd place there was incredible.
Yeah, I remember the whole front stands in a standing ovation and French people yelling bravo and sparks coming out from underneath Jordan Taylor's car.
Absolutely.
And it was Jeff's car. He carried that car, kept the pressures right, helped figure out the compounds all the way through that 24-hour race. This really shows what a competition this is. You can have these cars all run for 24 hours and all finish on the same lap within seconds of each other. One of them coming across the finish line with no tires, no brakes, and sparks coming out from underneath the car was pretty incredible.
That's an amazing story.
It was definitely something to watch. It highlighted my career for sure. And we may have gotten 3rd, but I felt like we won that thing that day.
Absolutely right. Guys, talk about your relationship with Pratt & Miller. I know you've got to work very close with them for Corvette Racing.
Yeah, I always consider Pratt & Miller, they're part of a triangle here with Corvette. You have General Motors, all the engineers and the company with General Motors working on Corvette. You have Pratt & Miller bringing all their race experience, their vehicle and tire modeling even. You know, they work on models with us, driver and loop stuff that Jeff does. And then you have Michelin. So we're all a triangle working to meet the needs of consumers for the best sports car in the world, as well as working to be number 1 in the world of motorsports competition for sports car racing, and General Motors to build the cars. And we all work back and forth. Jeff, you can tell them about some of the exchanges on modeling.
It's great to work with those guys, pinnacle of their profession there, and we glean so much in from what we do on the racetrack and able to take that back into develop street cars and help push the envelope from all the efforts we do on the motorsports side. And we really get a lot from the relationship at Pratt & Miller, being able to make that connection happen.
Guys, during the 24 hours of Le Mans, talk about the role that Michelin plays and the duties that you perform during the race itself.
Our focus is the tire. We also want to absorb all the other information that comes that can influence or affect the tire, which comes from a lot of different areas. You have to know about the environment, the ambient conditions, the temperature of the track, the temperature of the air. Is it going to rain? I can remember doing Le Mans 20 years ago when you didn't really have that good radar or any idea when rain was going to come in and hit the track, and the track being 8.5 miles around, it rained on one side but not the other side. But also the driver driver. You have to get feedback from the drivers to understand how well they're able to use the tire, like Antonio Garcia, Tommy Milner, Oliver Gavin. Jeff and I have a really close personal working relationship with those guys. The ability of those guys to keep a tire running really fast or a lap time really fast and having consistent performance from the tire lap after lap after lap, and maybe extending the stints instead of doing 2 stints, do 3 stints with the same set of tires. All those things are really important. And then even beyond the drivers, the other connection is the engineers. Pratt Miller has a wonderful engineering team. Jeff and I, working at Le Mans, we talk to all these people at the same time. We go between them back and forth and try to figure out exactly what the best pressures are needed, what compounds are the best, and feed Michelin information back for next year's designs, as well as Pratt Miller engineers information so they can set race strategy. Wouldn't you agree, Jeff?
I think that's spot on. Going across the line and looking at tires and double stints and making sure that they're clean and ready to send back out. It gets the heart racing when you have to line up for a pit stop and go over the wall.
Good point there. You never know the feeling that when your car is in first place. It's probably one of the most anxious feelings you get as a tire engineer. And you need to go out there during the fuel stop and stick your hand underneath the tire and feel the inside sidewall and shoulder area and make a determination if you think that tire can run for another full stint of fuel. Because if it has to come in early because the tires are worn out, then you lose the race. Right, Jeff? My heart beats like 9,000 RPMs and I don't breathe.
We did a triple stint last year to try to gain some position. And yeah, that whole third stint, your eyes are just looking at the pressure traces, just thinking, oh my God, come on. And he'd come on the radio. Boy, Katzberg drove that thing like a champ and got it in. But you're right, that whole last stint, you're crossing your fingers and not breathing very much.
That's incredible. And you guys have got to love the fans there in France, too.
Yeah, the fans are crazy. No matter how hard the race is physically and mentally, when you see how much fun everybody has, it's incredible. Don't you think, Jeff?
Absolutely. Corvette has the best fans in the world. Doesn't matter the race. And I think just like you said for that 2017 win, the number of Corvette flags and those grandstands that were flying, it was always something to see. It was amazing.
You have Corvette fans coming from the U.S. now, but also Jan Magnussen. It seemed like he had the whole country of Denmark turned into Corvette fans. And a lot of guys from England, they follow Oliver Gavin, and that's really cool. They are highly spirited, having a great time. And I will suggest to anybody that's listening to the podcast here that if you ever get a chance to spend a week in France in June during the summer, that's one of the best vacations you can have. Please do it. It's easy to do. You fly to Charles de Gaulle, get on a train. The train lets you out right in downtown Le Mans. You'll be there with another 300,000 or 400,000 people that just love sports car racing.
That's got to be on my bucket list. I know that's for sure. Guys, let's talk about technology. From the racing all the way to the street cars. I know that Corvette is very proud of that. Talk about how that technology gleaned from Corvette Racing goes into the street cars.
Back in the day, our slogan for Michelin Motorsports was race to win, race to learn. And I always loved that. The track being a full-blown laboratory where we're going out trying things, and we're able to take what we learn out there and bring it back into the other facets of the company. And I think that's been so much of what we do as a company and how we're able to do what we're able to do on these sports cars.
Yeah, and you get into tire components and design of our tires. I can just go down a huge list that probably hits every part of the tire, starting with the rubber. The rubber that we use on Corvette tires really only existed in the competition realm before. We only used it on tires that were used for competition purposes only. But with a lot of innovation in the way we design our street tires, we were able to make that softer, stickier rubber last longer on the street. So that brought those insane grip levels, the same grip levels that Tommy Milner has during qualifying, brought them to someone that might go out to a club event. So yeah, rubber transfer technology is important. Belt angles, belt materials, carcass materials, the shape of the tire, the way we design the contact patch. And I think one of the most exciting new things from competition to street tires is all the work that Dr. Jeff is such a specialist at. and that is in tire modeling and driver and loop simulation. And a lot of that stuff happened first in competition, and now it's coming into the street car and street tire realm. We'll design tires and work through setups on cars on a computer with simulator. Jeff, you might go a little bit more into that.
Having our drivers be able to hop in on a simulator and us do a full-blown submission virtually, looking at what works, what doesn't. How do we change the car to make it work around these tires, and how do we change the tires to work around the car has been incredible, helping us iterate faster, look at more interesting things, and really push the products to much better places. It's been a wild ride how far that's come in such a short time.
It is amazing, and I'm so glad of that because it's so cool to talk about your street car being developed from Corvette Racing.
Yeah, the race car guys have been using simulators for maybe a decade or so now. They would actually work through the strategies to use during a 24-hour race, which is real important because you go through the day, you go through the night, temperatures increasing, cooling down, all the different strategies and scenarios that can come across a 24-hour endurance race. When you can work on that in a simulator is important because you can get a head start on your competitors when you can do that. And so because of motorsports and this simulation working for racing strategy has progressed so far over the last decade now, we can put it into street car and street tire use, which can have the possibility for even more variable conditions. You know, when you go from snow to wet to rain to, I want to go down to Road Atlanta and see how fast I can do a lap. That simulation is important for us to grab all the possibilities and think about how to optimize across the board.
It's interesting that problem goes back to the 50s, back in the F1 days, trying to just simplify how do you get lap time predictions out of these cars. And it's rolled all the way into what we have today with computers getting so much better and able to simulate so much more physics, so much better that the driver's actually able to get a pretty realistic impression of what's going on virtually. So it's been incredible.
That is incredible. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Corvette Today. Lee Willard and Dr. Jeff Anderson, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Hey, Steve, same with us. What a pleasure.
Yeah, Steve, it's an honor to be on and get to talk about Corvette. It's awesome.
Thanks for listening to Corvette Today, and please be sure to tell your family, friends, and other Corvette enthusiasts about the Corvette Today podcast. And thanks to our sponsors, Wheelcraft. Want to dress up your Corvette with bright chrome or black chrome wheels? Visit wheelcraft.com to learn about their advanced PVD chrome finishing. They can refinish your wheels or offer a wheel exchange for most models, and it comes with a 5-year warranty. Visit wheelcraft.com today or call 833-840-5334. American Hydrocarbon at AmericanHydrocarbon.com. True Wealth & Company at RetireWithTrue.com. Also, NovaStretch Bras. Use the code Corvette Today 15 and get 15% off your total purchase at NovaStretch.com. Also, AEROLARRI Wheels. Get $100 off your purchase with the new promo code CT111 at AEROLARRI.com. Mid-America Motorworks at MAMotorworks.com. And Hendrick Chevrolet, located in Kansas City.
You've been listening to Corvette Today with Steve Garrett. If you'd like to contact Steve with any thoughts on the podcast or ideas for guests on Corvette Today, you can email him at stevegarrettdj@gmail.com. That's stevegarrettdj@gmail.com. Garrett has 2 R's and 2 T's. Or connect with Steve on social media on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram using @SteveGarrettDJ. Thanks again for listening to Corvette Today.